everyone, I'm Kristen Ciccolini.
And I'm Janine Malone.
And you're listening to It's Just a Phase. Each week we'll bring you inspiring and informative conversations about honoring the different cycles of life, covering topics of health and wellness, moon phases, astrology, witchcraft, feminism, and more so you can superpower your well-being and live your best life. So we should start off by saying we are recording this a couple days after the election, so nothing's definite yet. So we're there.
Yeah, we're currently cyberbullying the state of Nevada to count faster. And, just learning more about the different counties of Pennsylvania and Arizona and Georgia than I ever thought was possible.
More than you ever wanted to know.
Feels kind of nice, though. Feel very civically engaged.
Yeah. But so your plan was to avoid everything, right?
How's that going? It sure was. Yeah, I mean, I will say I avoided everything on election night itself. Like, we voted. I watched, I don't know, maybe like a couple things like right when the East Coast polls started to close. But we really didn't engage at all on Tuesday night. And I feel like there is a marked difference in terms of like the level of hope or exhaustion, because I didn't see the Florida results come in live, which I think was really disheartening for people. And so I'll say that the election night blackout worked great. That being said, I am now literally attached to refreshing Twitter and all those things, which I mean, how are you doing without Twitter and Facebook?
Well, I mean, I still, like I said, I still have Facebook because I need to do stuff for work on it. And then Twitter, I've only checked it, like I peeked at it, like just once in a while, just to see like if there's anything I'm missing, but it's still not on my phone. And I've just peeked every once in a while. And then I'm mostly just on NPR, just like refreshing the page, just not like obsessively, because I know like I'm like, okay, if I'll get a CNN alert when the time is right. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's definitely different from 2016, where I was like on top of all the coverage. Obviously different in terms of when we're finding out about everything and because of the mail-in ballots. But it's just like I totally understand the pull of being so obsessed with it. But I feel like we could people are really doing themselves a disservice. And like I said, I totally get it. But also like pulling yourself away from it is really so much better for you. Like the election coverage makes no sense. It's just so much energy spent on what ifs and none of it matters. Like none of it, because they could be wrong. They could be right, but they could also be wrong. And it doesn't fucking matter until we actually know who's president, right? And I was thinking about this the other day, like yesterday, it's all a blur.
6 years ago, yesterday.
In the 700th hour of this election. It feels like the same as when you're having an anxiety spiral. Like if I'm anxious about hearing from a doctor, or if I'm anxious about going to an event or a conversation I'm going to have, whatever it is, there's actually nothing I can do until I know an answer or until something happens. But if I'm in that spiral, I'm going to spend the next 24 hours going through every possible outcome, right? And for what? Nothing. It is so useless. Right. And none of this means anything. All of this election coverage is just nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. So I'm glad I took Twitter off my phone, and I have not turned anything on the TV. I'm just like,
I haven't watched any news coverage actually, besides like checking CNN.com, because the maps really stress me out.
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing people like posting clips of stuff, and I'm like, there's just like, what's the point? And I say that like when I'm in the middle of an anxiety spiral, it's like hard to tell myself like, what's the point? But but this is a little easier to be like, there's really nothing. There's nothing for me there right now.
Yeah, I will say, like, I mean, dear listener, you are listening to this in a world in which I assume by the time that it is November 16th. We will know definitively who has
Let's
won this
hope.
race. But I will say that yesterday I really did, I was certainly checking and keeping my eye on things, but like I really made an effort to like do some yoga, do some stretching, do some like grounding meditations. Actually, Jenny, or sorry, I always want to call her Jenny Deluxe because that's her Instagram handle, but Jenna Wortham, who's a
Yeah.
writer for the New York Times, and just released a book called Black Futures. She posted this IGTV video that Tracy Ellis Ross did, like I think amidst all the protests over the summer, that was like basically like a foot massage, like a grounding foot massage and like foot, like activities to make you feel grounded. And I
Ooh,
followed along with that and it felt so good. I'll put it in the show notes because I was just like, oh, this felt like such a nice little self treat.
that sounds really nice.
Yeah. So I was actually very proud of myself for like being able to do that and being able to be a little bit gentle and soft, and it's unfortunate that it takes um that level of stress and anxiety to get myself to do that, but I'm glad I did.
Well, how are you otherwise?
Good. I mean, geez, so much is happening,
Hmm.
Um, things are good. Very happy that this election is almost over, and very excited that I'm starting another podcast, which won't be the same without you, but it's all about retail, which I'm sure
But
you don't
that's
want to talk
okay.
to me about.
You know what? I'm your first subscriber. I will listen to every episode. It won't apply to me at all, but I'll still support you.
I love and appreciate that. I'm very curious to hear if I sound like a chipmunk when you listen to me on 2x speed, because for those of you who don't know, Kristen listens to all of her podcasts sped up because
Yeah.
she's so efficient.
Yeah. I don't have time.
But yeah, I have channeled some of my impatience with this process in launching the Feel Good Retail podcast, which if there's any small business owners out there, retailers, shopkeepers, makers, I'm really excited to have launched that last week as of the time you're listening to this. So there's some episodes you can go listen to if that applies.
Yay! I'm so excited for you. I'm so
Me
excited to listen to
too.
it. And I will tell you right now, I already listened to our own podcast on double speed and you sound fine.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I listen to our own podcast. It's so funny to me.
Well, it's so funny. I listen to it like while I'm editing, but then also like I want to hear it as it comes out as well.
I
I
do
don't
too.
know.
Yeah, I listen to
Yeah.
it.
But it's really funny when I'm listening to it and like when you say something to me in the show, my brain is like, respond.
Oh, mine does too. Oh
And
my God, that's wild.
I either like start laughing or or I like prep myself to say something and then I already say something in the show and I'm just like, she's not talking to me. She's talking to past Kristen.
Past you already responded to this question. Oh my God, that actually makes me feel way less crazy because I definitely do the same thing. So yeah, that feels good. I've obviously been, as longtime listeners know, been in the process of launching this new business, Feel Good Retail, which is like so exciting and definitely a long time coming. And it just feels good to get this new platform sort of out there. So very pumped.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you. How are you doing, my
I'm
sweet?
good.
Yeah.
I'm not launching anything anytime soon.
Good.
Well, yeah, we talked about like maybe doing like a period related podcast, which would be fun, but
Hell
not
yeah.
anytime soon because I just don't have the bandwidth or the brain space. Maybe in January.
That would be great.
um, it was so nice to see you last weekend.
I know. Kristen and I saw each other safely, COVID safe, but for the first time since February in person.
Yeah, we took a walk around the pond in my neighborhood and it was surprisingly warm out and it was really nice.
So, so great. Great to just like get out of the house too, man.
Yeah. It was.
Man, oh
And yeah,
man.
when I ran up to you, can I hug you?
It was very, very sweet. It made my, yeah. I was like, wanted to say made my day, but really made week, month. The bar
Yeah.
is pretty low, so I think that we can go pretty far.
Gee, thanks.
No, but I just mean like, like normally I'd be like, oh yeah, Kristen, we like got together, we had coffee, but it's like, oh my God, that felt so
Oh my
monumental.
God, I saw another human.
Yeah. Ay, ay, ay. But yeah, that was great.
And we also had a friend join us
We
for the
did.
walk. Michelle, shout out to Michelle.
Michelle from Holisticism, who, if y'all have not heard by now, Michelle also has a podcast.
We're just a family of podcast friends.
Yeah, honestly, this is like just the podcast pod today. But yeah, Holisticism launched their new podcast, The 12th House, and I've been fucking loving it. So,
It's been really good. She's the best. Business, intuitive business stuff. She's really great. So give it a
and
listen. We'll put it in the show notes.
yes. Should we get to the cosmic update?
We should.
Great.
What's
I
going
guess,
on this week?
well, we just had not a ton, which is actually kind of nice. We just had a new moon on Saturday, which we talked about on our last episode. So we're kind of in this waxing all week kind of energy. So, where are you making progress? Where are you starting to build some momentum? Remember that we are in a slower time of year. So, in general, just remember to be gentle with yourself with the expectations you're putting around productivity, especially considering the last few weeks and months and, frankly, the year that we've had. Um, if there is a metaphorical cup that needs refilling, I would focus your waxing energy on sort of restoring equilibrium, like just kind of checking in with self, I think is really important again as we get to really the waning moon, dark moon phase of our year. Coming back to ourself is really, really important. So, with that in mind, we're also barreling towards the holidays. And of course, that's always a hectic time of year, and I can't imagine 2020 will be any different. So, starting to make those plans, I know that that's like a really becoming a source of stress for a lot of people, myself included. Setting boundaries and expectations on, the travel restrictions, the way things might be different, how you're going to be celebrating and with whom and how safely and all those things is really, really important. So, it might feel good to kind of finalize those things this week. To me, like sometimes that waxing energy can kind of be a good time to like handle the stuff I've been avoiding because I have that like little boost. And so that just came up for me for sure. And more shameless self-promotion from Janine today. If you are a small business owner and you're like, I'm going to subscribe to your podcast and you're preparing for the holiday season, there's also our first feel good guide is available. So it's 5 steps to a feel good holiday season, really like helping you strategize your marketing and your buying and how you're going to kind of like treat your team and handle promotions and all that kind of stuff. So if you're freaking the hell out that like we're looking at Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend in just a few short days, I got you. You can go to feelgoodretail.com to get that, and we'll put it in the show notes.
I
And I
love
promise
that.
to never promote myself again.
That's what this is for.
You're right. You're right.
I
Thank
love
you.
the name Feel Good Retail. It rolls off the tongue.
Thank you.
It's perfect. Feel Good Guide. Download it.
Thank you.
We are also coming up on Sagittarius season next Saturday, or this Saturday, the 21st, which is generally a positive and optimistic season. It's a time of truth seeking, not the type that leads you to QAnon. And I say that because anytime I ever see like truth seeker in like someone's Twitter bio or Instagram bio, it's like they're always sharing QAnon conspiracy theories or like, I don't know,
Yeesh.
Trump supporters. So not that kind of truth seeking, but
No,
the
no.
type that leads you to adventure, trying new things and discovering different parts of yourself, the things you believe, the things you love, the things you enjoy. Sagittarius is a fire sign that's ruled by Jupiter. That's the planet of expansion. So, you know, expanding yourself. It can kind of feel a little bit fast paced, all that adventure and excitement. So it's a good practice to just pause every once in a while and see if you're moving at the speed of you or if there are other forces at play.
Mm,
Yes.
very, very important.
Yeah. And in the tarot episode, we talked about how nines represent that sacred pause, and Sagittarius is in the ninth sign, or it is the ninth sign of the zodiac. So, yeah, just keeping that in mind when things feel fast paced, just making sure to take that pause and just, is this what I want right now? Is this the pace that I want to go? How does this feel?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's yeah, the Sagittarius season. I mean, I'm surrounded. I have a lot of Sagittarians, I guess, as like friends and family members and things like that. And I mean, I love that season, but it can feel, I mean, I think that we can all relate to feeling a little bit like lost to the pace of between the holidays. So that's a good reminder. Sacred pause. I like that phrase, moving at the pace of you. That feels
Thanks.
really nice.
I just came up with it.
I love it. Love it. We should get some merch. Um, Speaking of pacing and holidays and chaos, Thanksgiving's coming up. Are we doing that? What's happening? What are you doing for
We're just
Thanksgiving?
like, it's coming up, I guess.
Ugh, God. I
What
guess
are
I'm
you
just
gonna do?
like, I
There's
don't
nothing
know.
to do.
There's nothing to do.
You can't see anyone. It's not safe.
No. And I just like, should we be celebrating
It's a
Thanksgiving?
problematic holiday to begin with, but then on top of it, I mean, it is always nice to see family, but
Yes, absolutely.
is it
So
safe?
I don't know. I'm actually currently looking at an uncracked Martha Stewart Living that has a big turkey on the cover because I do subscribe to Martha Stewart Living. And so I'm excited to dive into some recipes and some cooking and things and maybe just do something chill.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be an at-home Thanksgiving type of year, I think.
Chill, 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 chill. Yeah.
Make your
So,
turkey. I saw at Trader Joe's today, it was or today, yesterday, everything but the leftovers seasoning. And I think it was like Thanksgiving flavored
oh
seasoning.
my God, that's brilliant.
I only like briefly passed by it, but because I was like loading up on my everything but the bagel seasoning. Um, but yeah, it was with all the Thanksgiving stuff, so I think that's what it was.
Oh my
And
God.
now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, I should have got it.
Damn it.
But what would I put it on? Like, you have to have all
Everything.
the see, I mean, you have to have all the food for it to taste like Thanksgiving. Would
Yeah,
I put it on
that's
like
true.
potatoes, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Been eating a lot of potatoes, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Eating
Comfort.
seasonally, grounding.
Ground me. I just want to be put in the ground like a little potato. Ugh. But yeah, I mean, I guess we should also say that we're going to take a podcast break for the holidays, give ourselves some space.
Yeah.
So, just like before summer camp, we are taking today to do answer your questions.
We're not going to do winter camp
No,
because that's no
nap.
fun being
That's winter
outside in
camp.
winter. Yes, napping, winter camp. Um,
Hibernation is what that's called, a winter nap.
yes, there you go. But yeah, we'll hopefully be back in January or so. But yeah, after this election chaos and just the general feeling of 2020, it's definitely a good time for a little bit of a break to focus on other stuff. So we'll miss you, but
Yes.
yeah, we wanted to end this season with another Q&A because you had so many great questions last time and you have some more for us today.
Yes, I'm so excited. So, ugh, we'll start with, well, let's just get started. I'm excited to dive in. Like, there's so many good ones. So, first question, Kristen, besides trying to align for cycles, are there any rituals or constants in your practice?
Yeah, so I like this question, but I was also like, cycles are a huge part of it. So I know you said besides that, but
Yeah.
it's really like the guiding force. So that's how I decide what I'm actually going to do, and they give me context and perspective. Um, so I really tried to like think outside of that. But I do tarot check-ins, if even if it's at a time where I'm not doing like a daily practice, or, if it's just not happening as often as normal. Like I really do it monthly at minimum, which I suppose is like kind of a cycle because it is monthly, but I also like to use tarot for business planning or content creation if I'm feeling stuck and like not knowing where to go with a certain blog post or
Mhm.
whatever. So I like to use tarot for that. So that's a constant. Lighting a candle every night. So that's what I've been doing since Samhain, since I made my ancestral altar. I've been lighting a candle every night before I start to cook dinner because I have my grandmother's things in there. And anytime we went over there, we were like always in the kitchen. It was always about food. She was such a great cook. So feel like it's kind of nice to, like have her cook with me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so that's a new ritual that I like. Um, and then otherwise, if I do any other rituals any other times, I play the same song. I don't know if that's weird, but I I have a song that I really like. It's September Song by Agnes Obel,
Mm.
and it's all piano. It's really beautiful. And I found it did you watch Big Little Lies?
Yes.
Okay, you know how the daughter like weirdly had a really great taste in music,
Yes.
even though she was like 6. Um, and her iPod was like, or her iPod playlist, iPod? What year am I in? Her her playlist was like way cooler than mine would ever be. But there was like a Spotify playlist that was the Big Little Lies soundtrack. So I was like obsessed with that for a
Ooh.
while. And there was this one song on there that I thought was just so beautiful. And I really like to meditate with that before doing any rituals. So that is
Ooh.
definitely one that's a constant.
Oh, I can't wait to listen and also listen to that whole playlist because the soundtrack to Big Little Lies
It
was
is so
amazing.
good. I'll link to it in the show notes.
Please.
Yes.
Ugh. But yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Like cycles rule everything around me. But in terms of constants, I really rely heavily on tarot, journaling, and salt baths are like the things that are pretty non-negotiable. Like if I were to pare it down, all of those things can be adjusted based on what phase or cycle I'm in or working with, but those are kind of like the three mainstays. My personal tarot practice shifts a lot depending on what's going on in my life personally and also how much I'm currently reading for clients. I tend to avoid it if I'm in a season of like being really heavy with client readings because I'm just like it becomes work, like like anything else. But I do regularly pull at the new moon to help guide my intentions for the month. That's just something I've been doing for years now, so it's pretty ingrained. Journaling is definitely like a lifesaver for me. Sometimes I just brain dump, other times I, try to answer specific prompts, of which there are so many. Like on Instagram, you can always find like really incredible ideas for prompts given, reflecting certain circumstances or what the moon's doing, or just like there's just a lot of cool accounts that you can find or whatever, or Pinterest, all those places.
Ooh, can
Um,
I shameless self promote?
100%.
I have, if you go on my Instagram, there's a highlight with a bunch of journal prompts for like your relationship with food and diet culture and that. And I also have a download. You could download, it's like 45, I think, journal prompts for that stuff. So I'll link that in the
Damn,
show notes. But yeah,
please. Could definitely use those.
if you need some
Uh,
ideas.
yes. So I think that that can be helpful sometimes if you're feeling like you don't know what to write. And then recently I've been using Elizabeth Gilbert, who we clearly stan on this podcast. She spoke on I think it was the TED podcast, or right at the beginning of COVID. I'll find the episode and link it in the show notes, about a method she uses and has been using for years and years about like writing to and from love to yourself, which like sounds kind of corny. But honestly, I've been trying it when I've been trying to like dig into an area that I feel like stuck or lost, or there's like some tension, or I'm worried or anxious. Um, she talks a lot about it on the podcast. So if you're interested in it, I would recommend listening. It's all the way at the end. But it's essentially like she kind of uses her journal in the like in conversation. So she'll like start it being like, I'm really scared or something, and then like you respond as this like unconditional loving force, like, why? Come sit with me, like take a deep breath. Like, and again, it sounds like a little bit crazy, but it feels like really nice to just remind
Oh,
yourself that you can
nice.
like have compassion for yourself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Compassion. What's that?
yeah. Oh my God. Can you imagine not just being like, shut up, deal with it? So,
Oh, did you get the link I sent you with Elizabeth Gilbert? She's doing a talk
oh
with
my
Rachel
God,
Cargle.
yes. I can't believe I didn't respond to that. Sorry, brain.
It just made me think of it, but I'm looking forward to that. I don't know. So if you're listening, this will be past it by the time you guys get to it. But she's doing a talk with Rachel Cargle on inspiration and creativity in hashtag these times. So
Yes. Oh my God,
definitely
I'm really
someone to
looking
follow
forward.
for stuff like that because she does. I think she does stuff like that often. So
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've been really liking that. And then yeah, salt baths for me are also totally non-negotiable. They really help me unwind and release and recenter. I am not a fancy bath person. I am like hot water, Epsom salt. If you're lucky, I'll light a candle or something, but like I just need I need it for the the grounding, not the gram.
you mean you don't want like herbs floating around in your bits?
I do not. Nor do I want to deal with like getting yelled at by my husband who's like, why is there like sparkles in the drain? Like,
Why is
no.
there an orange slice stuck to the side of the tub?
I will say though, I did get like a charcoal bath salt once, and it like fully stained our tub. I had to scrub it for like a really
Oh no. Well, why would you think that it wouldn't?
I mean, oh, I no, I think I knew going into it, but I was like, oh, it won't be that bad.
Yeah,
It was
pretty bad.
bad, and I didn't feel any different.
Oh no.
It did not fix my life.
Well, it sounded like a little reverse of what you were trying to do.
Yeah,
Relax and then get stressed again.
you're so right. Ugh, live and learn. That's why I don't. Yeah, I don't fuck with that shit. Just
Yeah,
get me a good old fashioned Epsom salt.
I like some Epsom salt. Dr. Teals,
Yes,
shout out.
sponsor us.
All
Anyways, I
right.
hope that answers your question. I know that those are kind of like cycle, still a little bit cycle adjacent, but hey,
Well,
we practice what
everything
we
is
preach.
related to cycles. Yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
there you go. Well, next question. How do you research and gather knowledge of your topics? Pinterest, Google, books, etc. Question mark?
Question
Pinterest?
mark?
I never use Pinterest except for like marketing my blogs and stuff. Like I literally never use it for anything else. But I do all the time Google everything. It's how I survived my internship in college and my post college job. I don't know how anyone survives without it, truthfully. I also use books, podcasts, like you said. And if I'm studying something for work, then I comb through studies on PubMed and other journal libraries. So I am definitely a researcher. I love to take in as much information as possible. I love Google. Like I said, Google is your oyster. The internet is your oyster.
The world is your Google.
Yes. Wait, did I even say that?
No, no, no.
Can you tell we definitely need a break?
Oh my God. That
But
made me
if you
laugh.
mean, I wasn't sure if this question meant like research or like how do you gather knowledge of anything or just like your podcast topics.
Yeah.
If it's for the podcast, like we live this, you live, you learn, you don't have to do research because it's like part of your natural thing, your natural way of being. Um, so yeah, we don't have to do too much research for these shows, but otherwise, Google books, podcasts, or if we have a source for something, we always say where that's from.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I would agree. It totally depends on the topic. Personally, like I actually love to read nonfiction and like take classes or workshops. So those are the things that I tend to be like most attracted to.
Oh
If
yeah.
I really think there's something for me about being like immersed and undistracted that helps me really understand a concept, but also how to apply it. So, or how I want to apply it. I should be clear there because like I don't always do exactly as I'm told. Um, but I think that like obviously starting the research with Googling, I'm totally with you. I'm like queen of just super Google. Um, and I also really like to just like find experts whose approach I really resonate with and deep diving there.
Hmm.
Like if you just like the way that if you find someone who explains things in a way you understand or whose like perspective you really resonate with, um, I'm a big fan of just like sticking with them. I definitely subscribe to a lot of podcasts, mostly business ones, because there's that information to me feels like it's more like changing and trending. And I like that information that I'm using with clients to be current, of course. With the witchy, wellnessy stuff, like Kristen said, it's a lot of lived experience, it's a lot of trial and error and intuition. Um, I think that, through the season, we've definitely talked about a lot of the books and resources that really shaped our practices. Um, and yeah, some of it's just like, or a lot of it, in my experience, like Kristen said, is just like reading about something, trying it out, deciding if it's for you or not, and then kind of moving on to the next.
Yeah. Yeah. And the nonfiction, like that's like pretty much all I read.
Yeah.
I almost never read fiction. I'm reading one now only because like I need an escape from life. But other
Sure.
than that, it's always like, and I also like doing nonfiction on audiobook because it's kind of like a podcast. It's just an
Yeah, me
easier way to
too,
take it in.
actually. Unless it's like very detailed, in which case I usually like to physically read it so that I can like
Hmm.
highlight. But a big
You,
highlighter.
oh, you mark up your books? I never do that.
I do.
I tried once and I didn't like it. I was just like, I
I
don't know what to
try.
put here.
I do. I do like it. And I do like that I have like a Kindle, which is where I read a lot of nonfiction because I don't need to be like buying the physical.
Right.
I don't need them around my house, but I also like that there's a highlight function in there.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's that sits better with me.
Okay.
Well, I've highlighted like my nutrition books and stuff like that, but like regular books, like I was in a book club and like I saw everyone else like writing in their books and I'm like, should I do
Oh
that?
yeah, I don't like yeah, it's really more so that if it's something that I want to reference again,
Yeah.
I want to be able to flip through and be like, "Oh, I highlighted this. This must be important," because I'll never remember obviously where it is.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I tried it that net like the following month in that book club and I was like, "Oh, I don't like I feel bad like marking up the pages."
Oh my god. So Virgo. Okay, this one is definitely for you. This next question. Um, what does it mean to have your cycle on or around the full or new moon?
Health wise, it means nothing. So there is a red moon cycle. So that's when you bleed on the full moon, and the white moon cycle, which is when you bleed on the new moon. So it just means that your cycle is aligned with the lunar cycle. You might feel more connected, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything about your health. Spiritually, however, So obviously this isn't like empirical evidence. There's no like PubMed studies on this, but it does suggest a stronger connection to your intuition and the earth and natural cycles. And I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with I don't fully believe in what the traditional like thoughts are on this because we're all different, but you asked, so what it means, I'm going to share what I found that people traditionally say it means, and you can take it or leave it. So, if you bleed on the new moon, so the white moon cycle, it suggests that you are in your mother phase of life. So, there's the maiden, mother, and crone, and suggest you're in the mother phase, whether that means you're planning to start a family or you already have kids and you're raising them, or as we've talked about before, fertility and birth and mothering something. It doesn't always necessarily have to mean the physical. It can also relate to other aspects of life. So maybe you're nurturing your creativity or a big project or your career. So it doesn't necessarily have to have that like patriarchal view of like everyone needs to be a mother.
Mhm.
Um, Speaking of the patriarchy, they love this because you're focusing all your attention outside of yourself. So if you identify with this, see how you can take some of that mothering, nurturing energy for your own personal growth. Maybe that might feel a little bit more in alignment. For the red moon cycle, that's when you bleed on the full moon. It's traditionally known as the wise woman cycle because the energy is more focused inward. So, focusing inward and then sharing those strengths that you develop with your community. So, while the white moon cycle is focused attention or focusing attention outward to bring it in, so focusing on the external things like your family and your career and things like that for personal satisfaction, the red moon cycle focuses attention inward to extend it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like any strength that you're developing, your intuition, and using it to support your community. So it's a powerful sensual energy. And again, I don't fully subscribe to this. Like I said, everyone is different, and this is just the traditional thought around it. Maybe it feels good to you. I do think it just when you bleed on the full or new moon, it simply does just make you more connected to the earth cycles. Also, I could do a whole podcast episode about this. But this can change. So you can have a red moon cycle for a while and then slowly shift into a white moon cycle. And the most important thing is to track it and follow what's true for your body. So whichever one you bleed on, just think about how you feel. The menstrual phase corresponds to the new moon. So, does your personal new moon phase and how you feel at that time match up with the lunar new moon phase? Does it match up with what's happening in the sky? So, maybe you bleed at the full moon. Does it feel more in alignment to be social at that time? Or can you take the qualities of the full moon, that boldness and the authenticity, and apply it to your internal life? If you feel out of alignment with what's happening in the sky, that's okay. It doesn't have to align. So we've talked about that before. But you can also, think about what I just said. So using the qualities of that time and applying it to your cycle phase and see if that feels more natural to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, cool.
It's all it's personal, you know?
It's personal.
Definitely.
Speaking of the moon,
Yeah.
how do you use moon phases in your business, Janine? Businesses.
Businesses. Primarily I use the moon as an accountability buddy. I like to sort of take the time to set intentions and goals around the new moon, like I was saying earlier. And I just think it's like a nice reminder to sort of check in on my progress by the full moon, like it's just a nice natural rhythm to be like, okay, did I make any progress here? Um, Months feel very constrained, but a moon cycle, like that shit flows. So I just think that it's really nice to be able to like recalibrate where you need to, and it feels a little bit more fluid. Um, you know, if I can align a launch or a workshop with a moon cycle, amazing. Because I do think that there's an effect on how it's received. But I don't know, I try not to live and die by it in terms of scheduling because like life happens, you know?
Mhm.
Like I've said before, I tend to rebel against really strict deadlines and structures anyways, so that can be problematic. But I do think that using the moon cycle within your business is less about planning or productivity and more about like allowing yourself permission to be human in the process. Like that's what I really appreciate about working with the moon in general. Um, Progress will look different day to day, week to week, so just trying not to judge that is really important, and I think that my work with the moon helps me do that. I don't know. Basically, I feel like I've studied and worked with moon phases and the seasons as well, in a way that's really informed how I approach my own work and also how I support and teach my clients to approach their work. Um, Building just a more flexible and forgiving model than the linear sort of like hustle culture way of doing things. So it's more like the moon is, I don't know, like a it has created kind of like an archetype in the way of working rather than necessarily aligning or helping me plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
What about
So
you? What do you do?
I use it for intention setting, for planning activities. So if you go like business activities, so if you go back to the creative cycle episode, um, don't remember what number that is. We'll put it in the show notes. But we talk a lot about, the different activities for each phase of the creative cycle. So trying to plan those activities in accordance with the moon phases can be really helpful. So obviously everything can't abide by the moon, but if I'm planning like long sprints of things like days worth of content creation, that's going to be happening in a waxing moon or a full moon phase when that energy is really high and I have the time or the ability to focus. So I'll try to plan it for that if the time allows. And I've also been leading intention setting circles at the new moon in my membership program, which is really nice.
I love that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Such a nice thing to do, especially in community.
Yes, definitely. We can't have in-person moon circles, so unfortunately, it's a Zoom moon circle, but it is still
Hey,
really nice.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, love this next one. And I'm so curious to hear what you're going to say. What's your favorite tarot card?
I love this one too. So I picked two because I did major arcana, minor arcana. So
Oh,
my fave, I think I've definitely said this before because it's the Virgo card, but the Hermit is my favorite in the major arcana. And I think I just identify it with it the most. I'm a loner, also literal hermit homebody. And I usually have to figure things out for myself rather than having a group of girlfriends to talk things out with. And also as a solo business owner, I just have to trust in myself. And I think that's where probably my obsessive researching comes in, because I just I have to gather all my knowledge and feel confident in my own decisions in that way. So that's a very literal interpretation of the card, but I find that it's one that I'm called to a lot, especially as I've evolved spiritually and as I work towards not needing external validation, which is always a process.
sure.
And also allowing my time or allowing myself the time and space to explore my inner needs and development. So
I
the
love
hermit
that.
the hermit has been my fave for a while.
I
And
love the hermit too.
yeah. And then another nine. The minor in the minor arcana, I love the nine of pentacles. So
Oh,
I
so
don't
good.
say things like this ever, but hashtag goals. That's what I think. Um,
100%.
yeah. So this is, accomplishments, safety, peace, appreciation for all the work that she's done. So it's a really beautiful card. And also, not just money or business wise with the pentacles, but remember that that suit is represented by earth. So it's also appreciation for the world around you and what you surround yourself with. So I really just like that idea of reaching that level, like having that as a goal where I'm just, taking that again, nines are sacred pauses, taking that time to just take a second to look around and be like, okay, I feel safe, I feel good, I feel proud of myself. That is like definitely a goal card. So, can you tell I like
Yeah.
the solitary stuff?
I mean, I think that's good though. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people have a hard time with those cards, you know, because they want
Mhm.
to outsource
Yeah.
outsource the things.
What about you? I was so curious what you were going to say for this.
I mean, I went back and forth a lot. It's like hard to choose, but because it changes so often and I don't know, there's a million ways I could interpret the word favorite. But one that I'm always happy to see and find really grounding and often exactly the perspective that I need is the Queen of Pentacles. Love her.
Mm.
Um, I I actually chose it because I feel like this card in particular and working with it is sort of what inspired me to start really studying cycles and seasons and applying that knowledge to real life. So she's kind of been like a little mentor, tarot mentor to me. Um, the Queen of Pentacles is really a reminder to come back to the body, to see ourselves as part of nature, to care for ourselves where we actually are now, as opposed to what we think we need or want or should do or expect of ourselves. Um, to be more tender and compassionate. You guys know I'm a sucker for anything that reminds us to do that. Um, I don't know that she's the most complex card in the deck, but I do feel like we have a really special relationship because, well, I need that reminder pretty often. And I don't know, when this card comes up, like, it just never feels like shaming. It never feels like it doesn't feel like it's calling you out. It actually feels very much like, not to be corny, but feels like it's calling you in, and that there's this gentle nudge to like a gentle nudge to come back to self, but it can bring with it this opportunity to really like see yourself and what you need in a different light. You know, like I think that there's something about it that's a reminder but also a mirror. And so, yeah, it's like if there's something that you need or that your physical body needs, if you need to be attending to something for your health, for your mental wellness, for your spiritual wellness, just for you, that's not a hassle or an inconvenience or like something to be ashamed of. It's actually the natural order of things. And I just, yeah, I really love when that card comes up because it's usually like, I don't know, not to be like so corny, and I don't always like believe in this saying. Well, I do believe in it, but I think it can be problematic in some ways. Whatever. TED Talk can be shoved to the side for now. But is the idea of like you have everything that you need within you. Like everything exists in you that you need to support yourself and give yourself what you need and identify your intuition and all those things. And I just feel like that's all kind of rolled up in the Queen of Pentacles.
Yeah, that's a great card. I love
It,
those choices.
me
Or that
too. Me too. Okay, another one for our period priestess over here.
that should be the name of the podcast.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
100%.
Do I want to be the period priestess?
I mean, yeah,
Why
kind
not?
of.
Why not?
I mean, yeah, exactly. Be a freak.
Search that on iTunes in a couple months, see what pops up.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Okay. So, why am I so severely depressed before my period? I promise I didn't ask this question, although I definitely could have.
I know it's a really common thing, unfortunately, but there could be a variety of reasons for this. And it's hard to answer this question without knowing your personal situation. So just know that this is a general answer with potential different factors. So, first thing, if you were coming to me, the first thing I would look at is your nutrient levels and your intake of omega 3s to start off with. So, omega 3 fatty acids, these are known to help soothe PMS symptoms like depression, and low levels of omega 3 is associated with a higher incidence of depression as well. So, that's something to consider. Some foods that are good sources of omega 3s are nuts and seeds like walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds, and fatty fish like salmon, too. I'd also look at your vitamin D levels. So if you have a doctor's appointment coming up or anything, just definitely try to get that checked. That's really important, especially this year when we've been in quarantine and been inside a lot and not really getting much sunshine. I think a lot of us could probably use a little supplement at this time. But vitamin D, it's associated with mood disorders. So make sure you're, or low levels, I should say. So make sure you're getting out for some unprotected sunlight. So without sunscreen. I know that's like a sin, but only for like 10 minutes a day for fair skin and up to 20 minutes for darker skin, then put on the sunscreen. So that's how we get our natural vitamin D. So just pop outside for a few minutes and try to get some warmth. Also, gut health is really important. So, I would ask you, are you also having digestive issues around your period or overall? So, most of your serotonin is produced in the gut. So, if that's off, you might feel it in your mood. So, if a happy gut is a happy you.
Love it.
So, those are a couple of things I would look at. And also, another consideration is birth control. So, if you are on the birth control pill, that also carries a risk for depression, especially with the progestin only pill. And it's known to deplete certain micronutrients and can also mess with your neurotransmitters. So, that's another consideration. These are some things that we're not told about when it's prescribed. It's always just prescribed like as a band aid to they say to regulate your period. It doesn't regulate your period, but to help with certain symptoms, but it's not really targeting the root, and it also carries these risks with it. So there's more informed consent for you. And then finally, so getting your paying attention to making sure you have the nutrients, and also if you're on the birth control pill, but then also we should look at the emotional root. So what else is going on in your life? I mean, I know 2020, but also, where are you out of alignment? Are you okay? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you practicing self-care? Do you have a support system? Um, you know, have you pet a puppy lately?
Ugh.
Just are you doing things that are making you happy? Are there a lot of other things going on? There's, the social determinants of health that we talk about. So there's racism, sexism, fat phobia, all that. Is that present in your life? So there are a lot of different contributors to how you feel and how your hormones are balanced and all of that. So definitely keep that in mind. If you do feel out of alignment outside of those things, I would recommend going back to the very first episode, going back to the basics on when we talk about, I think it was called Four Seasons, Four Phases, right? So we talk about the four seasons or the four phases of your cycle, or, just of life. And that can help you with some practices to get in alignment. Or you can check out the blog I have on following the moon as a guide, and I'll link that in the show notes too. So
Yeah,
I
I
hope
think
you.
that's so important to think about. Like, I mean, obviously you speak so eloquently to like all the um, nutrient and food and gut things that can be going on, which are super legit. But I also think that like, right before our period is like the time where our energy is so depleted in in the sense that like there's something going on within the surface. We're being called back to internal. We're not feeling as productive, and like that's just not the world we live in. So we often I anyways, I'll just speak from my personal experience, like can experience this feeling of not only am I dipping because yes, I probably have like, vitamin D deficiencies and all those things that you were talking about, but then I'm also like really judging myself because I'm like, well, I'm feeling really like tired and I'm feeling really, like I just want to nap and I just want to rest, and like I judge myself, and that definitely, at least for me, contributes to that like dip in mood,
Oh yeah,
which
totally.
is also like, what's that like fucking meme essentially at this point that's like how old do I have to get until I'm like, oh, I wasn't just like so depressed I was getting my period,
Yeah.
like, oh right.
Yeah, that's
This
funny you say that
happens.
because I've seen that. I mean, I said I don't use Pinterest, but for research purposes, I was using it. And the first thing I typed in when I or the first thing that popped up when I typed in period was like period memes.
Oh my God,
So
amazing.
like it's just so bad that like people have to make memes to like laugh at it. But yeah, that was I did see that when it
Yeah, it's
came
like,
through.
am I going actually insane or am I just going to get my period tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like,
But if you're tracking and you learn how,
right.
then you know, and then it makes so much more sense. And rather than like sitting there being like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Why don't I have the energy for this? Why can't I focus? Like then it kind of puts it into context and you can treat yourself accordingly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
A hundo. And then our last question, recommendations. I guess it's not really a question, it's more of a statement that we will respond to. But recommendations for shadow work.
Yes. This came from one of our listeners who left us that review last week that I told you about, which is
Oh
really
my
great.
God.
And
So
we
nice.
appreciate you. Um, her name's Grace. But thank you, Grace. But so for shadow work, I hate to say this because this person has been very problematic in the past. However, Lacey Phillips, her website, To Be Magnetic, her work, and it's all about manifestation and unblocking and all of that, which is, problematic. But that stuff has been really helpful for me in terms of shadow work. Her guided meditations, again, are geared towards manifestation, but they focus on limited beliefs. And I know you're probably like rolling your eyes, but I found it really helpful for exploring my childhood and the roots of certain beliefs that I have about myself, and with those guided meditations. And that was super eye opening. And I like going back through my journal through all of those meditations was like a little bit wild because it's almost like I don't remember any of that happening.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you feel good trying her stuff out, go for it. Also, again, recommending that book, Gold Mining the Shadows. That's all. It's a quick read, and it's like the chapters are like a page or two, so it's little bite-sized recommendations to help you uncover some of that shadow.
Yeah, definitely. I think that another book I really liked was Romancing the Shadow by Connie Zweig? Zweig. I'm sorry. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. We'll
Connie
link both.
Z,
Huh?
our girl Connie Z.
Connie Z. Um, but yeah, I think that that book and Gold Mining the Shadow, which is by Pixie Lighthouse that Kristen recommended, like I find that they both had really compassionate elements to them, which I think is really nice if you're diving into shadow work solo. Um, Personally, like working with a therapist has been helpful to me because it can, like Kristen was saying, you kind of uncover these roots of certain beliefs. And at least in my personal experience, there were like some memories associated with that that I was glad to have someone to work through that with. Um, I
Really
also like
important.
to consider or work with the reversals of tarot cards. I think that that's really helped me like build an understanding and an awareness of just like the idea of shadow, and not that it's like, this like good versus bad thing, which I think can be at least how I was kind of approaching shadow work when I looked at it. Like, let me find all the bad parts, all the bad parts of myself. But yeah, I really like to look at reversals of tarot cards as like not the completely opposite meanings, but really as like the shadow element, or what could trigger your ego or trigger your shadow to react about that card. And I think just like looking at that way and being inquisitive about what is the shadow side of this reading or this energy or this trait, has just, like I said, helped me sort of understand and explore like what shadow is like as a concept.
That's
um
interesting. I've never heard of, well, I'm always curious how people read reversals because some people don't read them at all. Some people um, just have that, like you said, like a completely opposite meaning. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, do you always interpret reversals as a shadow?
I really interpret the reversals as having a very human reaction to what the card is telling you. Like
Hmm.
I see it as an invitation to be like, okay, I'm going to tell you what this card is asking of you, and I'm also acknowledging that you're going to be having a response to it. Like it's going to trigger something. What, like I said, ego, shadow, like this part of you that's kind of like uncomfortable with or reacting to what this card has to say, which I think is helpful, like when reversals come up, I don't know, I've always kind of been of that mind about it where like I don't want to ignore it completely, but I think that the idea that it because it came up reversed all of a sudden it's like very scary and exactly the opposite of what it would mean the other way is like just doesn't seem helpful or like holistic or nurturing in any way.
Hmm.
um so yeah, I've kind of always looked at it as like either yeah, just kind of like what's your response, and sometimes to me like or at least in some of the shadow work that I've done and I found most beneficial is like it is about understanding like the parts of you that respond and are triggered by certain things or certain experiences that you've had in the past. um so yeah, that's just been really helpful to me, and it's also been really helpful to just like even if a card shows up upright to like think about like what the shadow element is or like what the reaction could be. It just kind of is like a thought experiment, I guess.
Hmm.
um I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does. Yeah.
it's been helpful just because I use tarot so often. So um but yeah, I think it can be a little bit scary and amorphous when you start to do shadow work and begin, deep diving and identifying it. Like Kristen said, it's just like identification is one of the most important parts, like exploring the roots of some of those things. And that's really, really powerful. And I definitely think that shadow work is like huge if you're doing if you have any kind of spiritual practice at all, slash, everyone should just do shadow work. Um,
Yeah.
but I
Also
think that,
important to emphasize what you said, of doing that work with a therapist, especially if there's trauma associated with shadow
yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah. If you're worried that you'll unearth something, or I don't know, I actually, not to get too personal, but I actually just had a I'm like working with a new therapist, and so we have like our first intro, the first like intro session you have with them, and they're just asking you all sorts of like medical questions and history, and it's just kind of like a getting to know you. And I actually really appreciated that at the end of the call she was like, okay, so I have one more question for you. Like, is there anything that we unpacked today that you feel like we didn't put back where it belonged?
Oh, I love
And I
that.
was like, thank you so, like, it just felt like the most respectful way to like end a session. I was blown away by that.
What if you
So,
said yes? Would she have spent extra time past the
yeah, exactly. Who knows? I mean, it was like 10 minutes before the session like kind of
Oh, okay.
ended, like she like made a point to sort of like interrupt or not interrupt, but like before we continued, she was like, okay, we have like 10 minutes left. I have one question, whatever. Um, and I just really appreciated that because I do think that sometimes you do,
Mm, yeah.
you're digging in somewhere and you're not always sure what you're gonna find.
I love that question. I might ask
Yeah.
that in the future.
Yeah. I just thought that was like, I don't know, just what a nice way to like establish closure, even in just like a normal, doesn't always have to be in therapy, but like, you
Yeah,
know,
it's just really compassionate.
yes, loved that. So, needless to say, I booked a second appointment.
You might have to give me her name.
Yeah, yeah, I will.
Send me her info.
I will.
Well, that's
Oh,
season two.
season 2. I wish I had one of those like director, like cut, like little things, even though no one could see it. You could hear the clack though. That would be cool.
I just clapped for you.
Thank you.
Well, if you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed this season, if you enjoyed this episode, we would love for you to leave us a review on iTunes. It helps people, amazing, wonderful, awesome people like you find our show, and it also lets us know that you want a third season. So
That's
if
true.
you don't want us to just stay out in the void forever, let us know that you want us to come back.
Exactly.
And you can do that with iTunes reviews, or if you want to reach out to us on Instagram, we're at It's Just a Phase Pod, and you can email us at It's Just a Phase Pod at gmail.com. We love you.
We love you so much. Thanks for being here. Take care of yourselves. Happy holidays. Don't let anyone pressure you. What else? That's
Happy
it.
holidays. Happy New Year. Hope 2021 is better. And we'll
Ugh.
see you then.
See you then.
Bye.
Yay!
Cut.
Clap.